podcast show for business owners and managers who are passionate about developing people and growing a successful business. And now here's your host, Alistair Booth from the HR Booth.
Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, I'm going to discuss the benefits of apprenticeships within businesses. It's something that we give quite a bit of advice to our clients on, and we've actually had some success with apprenticeships in our own business. So I wanted to kind of just share my insights on this subject, and just to give some feedback around the different types of apprenticeships that are available to employers. And I know from speaking to a lot of businesses, and certainly from what we see with a number of our clients, that there are some concerns that there's a bit of a kind of aging workforce. Sometimes a little bit difficult to kind of find talent in the workplace. Big kind of challenge at the minute is attracting people and retaining them. So what I'm going to try and do in this episode is just kind of share the benefits of an apprenticeship kind of program, which will hopefully help combat some of these challenges that you might face. Now, I'm going to talk probably mainly around what kind of happens in Scotland, and in a future episode I'll discuss what kind of happens in the rest of the UK. And there are kind of some similarities, but this kind of episode is going to focus more for Scottish-based employers. And there's various types of apprenticeships that are available. So there's your kind of, I suppose, the more traditional apprenticeship, which is probably quite well known, and that tends to be more your kind of trades or engineering kind of type apprenticeship, which is typically a kind of 4-year apprenticeship. The other couple that I'm going to speak about is the modern apprenticeship, and the final one is the graduate apprenticeship. And I've kind of been talking a little bit about this in some schools recently. So we as a business are really proactive at supporting local schools, typically students that are maybe in S3, S4 and S5, and it's to kind of equip them with the right skills to help them in their kind of working lives. So what we kind of do is go in, teach them things around, how to write a CV, how to complete an application form, the benefits of having some kind of part-time work or voluntary work, a little bit around interview skills and how to kind of apply for jobs. And in a recent session with one of the high schools just before Christmas time, I kind of we were a little bit kind of ahead of schedule around where we were in the program, so I decided just to kind of spend half an hour on that session with the class, just to speak about the different types of apprenticeships that are available. So it gave me a little bit of kind of inspiration, I suppose, for this episode on the podcast. So the different types of apprenticeships I've kind of mentioned there. So I'll start with the first one, which typically is your kind of trades apprenticeship. So that's probably quite familiar to a lot of people and to a lot of businesses. So if you were looking to, recruit a joiner, an electrician, a plumber, a typical kind of trade, what you would then be offering as a kind of trades apprenticeship. And with that, what you find is that the apprentice will complete probably a kind of 4-year apprenticeship, and there'll be a combination of spending a lot of time at college, learning a lot of the kind of practical elements and some of the theory behind that. And then there would be some time in the workplace where it is kind of hands-on, doing the practical stuff, and then kind of working with probably someone in the business who is their kind of mentor. With that type of apprenticeship, what you find is that certainly during the first year and probably first 2 years is more heavily weighted towards time at college. So it's quite a big investment for an employer to bring in a trades apprentice, because that individual is going to be spending a significant chunk of time at college. And you'd obviously be paying them their kind of hourly rate and their weekly rate and salary around that, and you're not really going to see the benefits of that immediately, because the individual is going to be spending more time out the business. But what you are doing is providing the skills, the opportunities for that individual, that when they become qualified, that they are going to come into your business, and you've to help develop them in that. So it is a kind of long kind of process around it. But with my experience on the trades apprenticeship, certainly when you get into kind of year 3 and year 4, there's a lot more time kind of spent in the workplace and less time at college, just to kind of help get that apprenticeship kind of signed off. So that route is more common certainly with the kind of trades apprenticeships, and I know that some kind of construction apprenticeships are offered around that as well. And we've seen recently, some of our clients kind of looking at kind of engineers, different types of roles around that. So again, that is something that can be done, and the benefit for that is that you're molding and developing a younger person into your kind of ways of working, but as a kind of long-term investment that you kind of need to make to see the benefits of that. So I think that type of apprenticeship is probably more widely kind of known. The other two apprenticeships I'm going to kind of speak about, and the next one is on what's called the modern apprenticeship, and that perhaps probably isn't as well known, and in our business we've had some success with that. So I think if I look back, probably our first employee in 2015 was a modern apprenticeship that we'd kind of created. So that was a kind of admin stroke kind of marketing HR type role. So that was kind of just coming up for 9 years ago. After that apprenticeship was completed, we were able to offer Emma, who took that role as a permanent member of the team, and Emma's kind of stayed in the business for 4 years before kind of going to progress our HR career elsewhere, and has done really well, to be fair, which is great to see. So that modern apprenticeship kind of role is slightly different, where more time is kind of spent in the workplace, and if I'm being honest, you're probably spending as full time in the workplace, with some time allocated during the working week to gather work-based evidence for a portfolio, and then an assessor will come into the workplace or kind of do it online, which could be done via Zoom or Teams or some other kind of platform like that, just to check the individual's kind of progress. So the advantage with that type of apprenticeship is that the organisation is getting someone in the business pretty much kind of full time, and you can kind of develop the show them your ways of working, providing on-the-job type training, and it's a good way to kind of get a younger person into the workplace. And in the 9 years since we first kind of created one of these types of roles, I'm really proud that we've also had two others who've kind of commenced a modern type apprenticeship. So Laura joined our business in October 2022, and then she was made permanent last year on the completion of a kind of apprenticeship. And then just in the last few weeks, we've recruited a digital kind of marketing apprentice. So Rennie has kind of joined us, and he is going to go through a marketing type apprenticeship, and there'll be some time allocated for completing a diploma at college, which will be done remotely. So the advantage with these types of apprenticeships is that you're providing opportunities in the workplace. There's an opportunity for them to learn new skills. You can build in things like different kind of webinars, seminars, on-the-job type training, and the individuals can also kind of go and complete a kind of qualification in that kind of chosen field. The advantage with a modern apprentice is that apprenticeship program doesn't take as long as the trade apprenticeship that I've mentioned. So my experience with modern apprentices, and I've seen this in a number of kind of clients that we've worked with, is typically the apprenticeship could be completed within kind of 8 months to maybe 18 months. So a lot will kind of depend on the individual's progress in the workplace, progress at completing the college assessments, which can be done at college with a provider, or it could be another learning provider who is completing a vocational qualification or a potential kind of diploma, depending on the type of modern apprenticeship that you're offering. So the advantage there is the individual can kind of go through the apprenticeship far quicker, and then the benefit for the individual at that point is that they could then secure a permanent role in the organisation at the end of that apprenticeship. So that's a good incentive for an employer. And again, the benefits of that is that you've got the individual in the workplace more often than not on a kind of full-time basis. Now, the modern apprenticeship pathway is probably a little bit similar to my own pathway within the workplace and within HR. So when I kind of started my career many years ago, the route I kind of started was what was known as a kind of skill seeker program, which had replaced the old kind of youth training scheme, or the YTS scheme as it was probably widely known. With that skill seeker program, what I was able to do was essentially do a 2-year program, which was 4 days in the workplace and 1 day at the local college, and that was kind of achieving a vocational qualification in business management and administration, and it was 4 days, as I say, in the kind of workplace. My experience with that was that, I think what was supposed to happen with my employer was that I would spend 6 months in different departments. So at the end of the 2-year program, I would have had experience in 4 different departments. But what had happened in my journey was that I started my placement in the HR department. They quite liked what I was able to offer, seemed to be a good fit, and they actually wanted to retain me in the HR department and not spend any time in the other departments, which from memory, I think would have been finance and payroll, IT, and a couple other kind of potential areas in the business if you'd expressed an interest in that. So I was fortunate that I quite liked HR, and I'd got that opportunity, and I completed a 2-year program, spending 2 years in the workplace in the HR department, and also getting the qualification. That then allowed me to then go and secure a kind of role on a kind of permanent basis and complete various professional qualifications thereafter. So I quite like the modern apprenticeship because I see similarities with my own pathway, and I've helped a lot of kind of employers kind of use something kind of similar in terms of that same scheme, and we're now using that scheme at the HR booth. So that's the kind of modern apprentice opportunity that's available. And there's the good thing about that is there's tons of opportunities that are available. So there could be marketing, there could be business admin, there could be finance. There's kind of some more technical type roles. So there's loads of opportunities within a kind of modern apprenticeship program that you could have a look at. And what we'll do is in the show notes, we'll put some kind of reference points to some of the courses that are available and the types of roles that are available. And then the final apprenticeship that I'm going to speak about today is what's known as the graduate apprenticeship scheme. So a little bit similar to the modern apprenticeship scheme, but the difference is that this program allows individuals to get a degree without having to kind of spend 4 years at university to achieve it. So good thing for an employer there is that I think, what happens is it's 4 days in the workplace, and then it's a day at university completing the the qualification that the individual is choosing to do. So we see that quite a bit in some specialist potential marketing roles, certainly very common in the IT sector. So we've seen that within software engineering, network engineering, and then a little bit around kind of web development and things like that as well, computer science and different things around that. So again, in the show notes, I'll put some guidance notes and some links to some of the types of graduate apprenticeship programs that are available. But the good thing about a graduate program is it's appealing to an employer is that you're essentially helping someone achieve that degree. You're paying them to do that whilst they're achieving the degree. So they're learning the practical elements in the workplace, and what you then get is someone who is a graduate at the end of the program who has got that practical kind of work experience that they just wouldn't have got if they went to university full time. The advantage for the apprentice going through that program is that they leave university having gained a qualification, having gained real good practical work experience, but has also has been earning whilst they've been learning. So they're not leaving university with lots of debt, no kind of real practical work experience. What they're going to do is achieve that same degree, but probably in a shorter space of time with the kind of work experience that's kind of behind them, and that is going to really stand them in good stead. So that's really good from an employer perspective, is that you're able to kind of develop them, teach them kind of life skills, teach them practical kind of work experience that they won't get at university, and help develop them to kind of run your own systems and the way that you kind of operate. So whilst they get the professional or the kind of qualification, what they're also gaining is the practical work experience on your systems and processes, etc., which you just wouldn't get at university. So again, that is a real good incentive for an employer, and we know quite a few of some of our clients who are promoting kind of graduate apprenticeships as a good way to kind of attract younger talent into the business and help kind of develop that. So if you are an employer and you are looking at different ways to attract younger people into the workplace to help kind of support succession planning in the future, or also just kind of looking at ways in which you can get kind of fresh talent into the business, then definitely look at the different options that are available around the apprenticeship scheme. Within the show notes, I'll put a link to the Skills Development Scotland kind of website, and there's kind of lots of different opportunities within that. And it's also worthwhile in Scotland speaking to your kind of local authority, because different kind of council areas also have potentially some funding available for some of these roles as well. So I know that some councils will perhaps pay 50% off the wages for the first 13 weeks on a modern apprenticeship programme, and that kind of varies from local authority to local authority. And when you're watching this kind of or listening to this kind of podcast, this is probably going to be before the new financial year, so there might not be a lot of funding available between now and the end of March. But what you should potentially do is look to speak to a Skills Development Scotland kind of advisor who will kind of keep you right on that, and then just engage with your kind of local kind of authority around what potential funding might be available. And the final thing that I'll probably ask you to do is I've recently been appointed to on the board of the Developing Young Workforce in Fife. Always been very passionate about kind of helping younger people, and that was one of the reasons for doing this this episode on the podcast. But what we've been doing, and me personally, but also my team for a number of years, is actually going out and speaking to local schools, trying to engage with the schools around different things where employers can help. So touched on earlier around kind of CV writing, interview skills, and all the things like that. If you can kind of give some of your time to do some of that as an employer, one, it's a great thing to do to be able to give something back, but two, you're also potentially identifying some of the local talent in your area who have got an interest in the potential roles that you might have becoming available in the future. So it's a good way for you to kind of get in front of that local talent before some of your competitors do that, and build up a little bit of a kind of talent pipeline. So these are some of the things that you could be looking to do if you're looking to kind of recruit younger people, and also looking at the apprenticeship kind of scheme and the different programs that are available. So appreciate you kind of tuning into this episode. We'll put some information, as I say, on the show notes. And if you want to reach out to me regarding anything in relation to this podcast or anything kind of HR related, you can contact me via email, which is info@thehrbooth.co.uk. And you can also kind of check us out online by looking at the website, which is www.thehrbooth.co.uk. And it would really help us in the future as well if you could like or subscribe to the channel, because it allows us to potentially have more subscribers, and that allows us to potentially get more information out to other employers such as yourself. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back in touch again soon. Thanks.